Mrs. Baker muses on her own legacy, including inspiring one of England's greatest writers. And now we find ourselves asking, who is responsible for the creation of myth and legend? Ladies and gentlemen, paper hap family, one and all, it is now a great honor to enjoy and share the story of Mrs. Sarah Baker, Governess General of Kentish Theatre.
Eight, 10, 12, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 1 guinea. There are many stories about me, you know. One such has it that I take all the theatre ticket takings and keep them in 4 large bowls which I store atop of a cabinet. What nonsense, when a good strong box is so much more secure. You might hear many stories about me. I am, of course, your servant, Mrs. Sarah Baker. Some of them will be true, but some of them will be circulated by naughty persons mischievously intent upon ruining my reputation. Now, our bill of fare tonight here at Wakelin's Company of Fancy Ticklers, which, by the way, is my mother's troupe, started at the Sadler's Wells. Indeed, actually, since we've been leaving the Wells and strolling for the last 7 years, I have been running things, and Mother assures me she will hand over officially any day now, and then I may change the name, perhaps, to something more refined, like Baker's Company of Comedians. But in the meantime, Fancy Ticklers it is. Tonight's bill of fare is going to be the usual Sadler's Wells diversions, slack rope walking, tightrope walking, music, dancing. We've got both a hornpipe and wooden shoes tonight. The glasses, the musical glasses, that's me, tumbling as well. Our pantomime this evening will be Harlequin's Whim or Merry Medley. And, the clown in that is going to be, yes, our star performer, Mr. Louis Owen himself. Now, Mr. Owen is the very same clown who, when we play the fairs, he draws all the punters from the other stalls, so he leaves the regular companies playing Shakespeare and Otway to empty benches. Anyway, our finale tonight will be the tragedy of George Burnwell, or the London Merchant, a moral piece, really to please the justices and the corporation here in Rochester. Although I do see their point. I mean, it was only a short while ago that Mr. Hurst's company were playing here in the town, and, their entertainments were rudely interrupted by a loutish group of drunken Marines who stormed the entertainments, drew their swords, and challenged the whole house to a duel. You will not find, 2 people got injured as well. You will not find such things happening in my theatre. You may have noticed, as you made your way to me, you had to get past 2 rather imposing gentlemen. That was Mr. Moses Lawrence, who is our slack wire walker, at least at the moment. I believe he'll be leaving us shortly, and Mr. Rugg. This evening, these two gentlemen will be joined by the Rochester Volunteer Militia, who not only are part of the spectacle, but are also very useful at quelling trouble afore it starts. So, did I catch the whiff of an American accent as you spoke? I thought I did. You see, I believe that the heated spirits we are experiencing currently are partly due to the situation we find ourselves in. Some have said that the American war is a calamity for England. I say our sailor boys and our soldiers are welcome at my theatre. You see, our route generally takes us from Rochester and Chatham through Maidstone to Canterbury, on to Faversham, out to Sandwich and then Dover. So you see, we're following the route that the ships must take along the rivers Medway and Stour out to the coast. And there has been, well, so much traffic of ship coming in and out since the war has been going. And then, of course, we find ourselves watching an incessant influx of the troops that are coming and going off to America and coming back again. There is a whisper that France will enter the fight. And if that is so, we are the handiest ports for there. And then, of course, that means it's all providing, this American war, much business for our shipbuilders, our sailmakers, our ship's chandlers, not to mention all the town suppliers. They're making more money than they have done in years, which means there is plenty of trash in pocket that people are prepared to spend, willing and eager, indeed, on the diversions of the theatre, which no doubt is why you came. So, give us your shilling. You what? Oh, you're here about the position. Oh, yes, I am looking for a scene painter and actor. You should have said. Oh, are you the person that was recommended by Mr. Palmer of Rochester? Oh, yes, of course. Oh, well, welcome. Mr. Palmer makes us the finest props whenever we are playing the town, although we also sometimes send for fine things to Mr. Coombs of Covent Garden. But, well, you should have said, because Mr. Palmer's recommendation was enough. You're in. Welcome to the company. Now, I suppose I should speak terms and conditions with you. Mine is a salary establishment. Every player gets a guinea a week, regardless of the parts that you play, big or small. Now, if we do a benefit for you, my terms are this: you shall get one part, the actor. I shall take two parts of the produce, but your one part will only be given to you if it's above £5, else none for the actor. And I am very aware that a guinea a week may have comparative smallness to some other theatre companies, but I will make sure that you are well provided in other regards. Every week I go shopping for fowl, for pork, for butter and eggs, and I distribute those amongst my acting ladies and gentlemen. So you shall never go hungry. There is something you do need to be aware of with the company as well. It is never expected that a member of my company will be committed to jail for debt. I will not have my young men running up debt. So, to that end, let me give you a week's wages in advance. Here you are. That's it. Now, give some of that to the people of Rochester, and they will be civil to you in expectation of the rest. So I hope that is clear. Do not get into debt at all. And I will make sure you're provided with victuals, as I have said. Now, what else the company. You need to know who the company are. You'll meet them in due course. And obviously there's Mother, Mrs. Wakelin, Moses Lawrence, I've told you about, our Slackwire Walker. Usually does that with my sister, Moll, who also makes the costumes. But lately, Moll has been asking to do more of the stiff wire dancing with Mr. Louis Owen. And indeed, they've asked to be lodged together in the digs. So maybe that's why Mr. Lawrence is leaving us shortly. Anyway, no matter. My children are part of the company as well. You will meet my oldest, that's Anne. She is 15. I hope that won't be a problem. I will not have any of my people treated with neglect or infamy when we are abroad, either by people in the company or people in the town. We may be classed as rogues and vagabonds under the Theatre Licensing Act of 1737, the very year of my birth, but I am determined to show that we rise above it. You know why the Act came about, of course? Oh, because of satire. Satire. Yes, the Prime Minister of that time, 40 years ago now it was Mr. Robert Walpole, the first to hold the title Prime Minister, and he disliked finding that himself and his ministers were portrayed as thieves and highwaymen and vagabonds and the like in The Beggar's Opera and similar. And so they introduced a bill in Parliament which stated that only those acts and theatres which had been licensed by the Lord Chamberlain's office for a hefty penalty of monies would be permitted to perform. That leaves only 2 theatres in the whole country, Drury Lane and Covent Garden. I mean, that's not sufficient for all the performers there are in the country, is it? Oh, well, we must make shift as we can. Who else? Oh, there's my son, Henry. Yes, you'll meet him. He's only 10. He's a useful actor, but a better scene shifter. I mean, I say my son, but actually from the cradle I've had my suspicions he's a changeling who has been swapped away by the little people. He has no love for the theatre or anything to do with it. Anyway, he's very morose, just ignore him. And then there's my youngest. Now, my youngest is called Sarah, named for me. So to distinguish, we call her Sally. And, well, she may be only 7 years of age, but she is already able to command the stage solo. Indeed, I think she'll make a very pretty little comedian. Who else? Oh, the musicians. The musicians are the Ireland family. They are our cousins. Oops. And, sorry? Mr. Baker? No. I regret to inform you, Mr. Baker has been dead these 7 years past. He died just before Sally were born. It was a very hard winter that saw us play Sadler's Wells and leave it for the last time, and saw him off as well. Once I'd recovered from the birth, when you have 3 young children, you have no time to dwell on tragedy. So I put the children on one ass and my puppets on another. When I say puppets, obviously you know that like dancing, singing and acrobatics, puppetry needs no license, no costly license like the legitimate theatricals require. So that is why many strollers use them. So with Mother and Moll, we then set to strolling. And talking of moving from place to place, tomorrow we will actually be strolling to Stourbridge, where we're going to play the fair. Now, Stourbridge is quite a way off, but that does mean you will have to pack up the theatre, for this all comes apart, and that will be part of your duties. But I will not have my people unable to pay their way on the road. So do you want anything of me? Do you need any money? You're all right with your wages, are you, in advance? All right then, but you just ask if you need anything. So we shall be going to Stourbridge. At Stourbridge, we shall play Love in a Village. Do you know it? It's got 42 songs in it. You're bound to know some of them. One of the more famous ones is, of course, The Miller of Dee. There was a jolly miller once lived on the River Dee. He worked and sang from morn till night, no lark so blithe as he. And this the burden of his song forever it shall be. I care for nobody, no, not I, if nobody cares for me. I shall be playing a non-singing role, that of Mrs. Deborah Woodcock, who is sister to the Justice. She's very prim and proper, and she says to her, she tries to warn her brother of the romantic intentions of the romantic lead towards their niece, and then later on she calls her a slut. Anyway, once that piece is finished, my daughter Sally will sing and dance the hornpipe, and then we shall give them a trip to Scotland. Do you do accents? Oh, no matter. I'll put you in with Mr. Rugg because that is one of his acts, in fact. He gives imitations of various country dialects and he has been received with acclaim and applause at both Bath and Sadler's Wells. Yes. I think that will be sufficient, really, for the moment. You may perhaps find the rest of the company as we go along. Indeed so. I should perhaps tell you, sir, I have a bigger vision for this little theatre troupe. I dream of a time when we are not having to cart our theatre with us or lug the properties everywhere, but rather where we may perhaps have solid four walls around us in playhouses, what is built to take us. Can you imagine such a thing, sir? Perhaps one in each place. And indeed, my recruitment of you and some other gentlemen lately is one step upon that road. Now, of course, if we is playing in more superior environs, I believe we should probably think to expand our repertoire to something with a bit more taste as well. Tell me, do you know any Shakespeare? Discob. I understand, sir, that the story is that you are not known by Justice Cobb, save by those who stand in for you in the court, nor are you yet called Francis or even Mr. Cobb. I hear that due to the industry you have put into this little seaside town of Margate, you are called by all King Cobb. Is that right, sir? And yet, if you will grant me a liberty, sir, perhaps as plain Sarah Baker, I may refer to you as Baker Cobb. For I understand that before all this started, you were an humble baker, yes? And then, of course, you apparently went to gilded gingerbread, and then from the yeast you went into brewing, and so your business has expanded and expanded, and you have gilded this little seaside town until it is now one of the finest watering places in the whole kingdom. Yes, I admire that, Justice Cobb, Baker Cobb, King Cobb. I see that you are a self-made man, as I am a self-made woman. And now that you have made Margate such a lure for the ton and attracting persons of taste and refinement, I would like to request permission from yourself to be able to build a new theatre, and I shall build it for Margate upon a better plan than the one that stands currently. Because, forgive me, sir, but am I right in thinking that the current theatre in Margate is run by Captain Mates? Yes, I thought as much, yes. You do know that his theatre is built above a stable, and the stable continues to operate? Hardly a place for the most refined palates to spend time, is it? And you do also know that his company is a sharing company, by which I mean, if there are any profits from the day's take-ins with each performance, after his considerable expenses have been removed, Captain Mates divides it into equal shares. He gives 1 share each to the actors and takes 5 for himself. No wonder his company are so keen to do bespeak entertainments and indeed benefits, where they take the benefit themselves for one person for one night. There is one other more delicate thing I feel I should tell you about Captain Mates. He's no gentleman, sir. I had an incident with him some years ago, just after I'd recruited a man named Rugg into my company. A rough actor, but a very strikingly good-looking one. Mr. Rugg, to his credit, is happy to take on any challenge, any task that I set for him. Now, I came at Rochester to the back of my theatre once into the dressing place. And there, on my dressing place, well, Captain Mates was standing there, not a member of my company at the time, and on my dressing place, there were scurrilous writings. Well, I asked Captain Mates to read them to me, and you know with what affectation he speaks. He said, Beaker's wife once in her life had her oven stopped up snug, but now they say instead of clay she stops it with a rug. Well, I accused Captain Mates of having penned this libel, but before I had time to question him further, I was called to go on in the part of filigree, for we were playing A Trip to Scotland at that time. When I returned, Mates had gone, but there was another ill-voiced note upon my dressing place, which read, Damn your abuse, she makes no use of Rugg, as you have said, but they do say, and so they may, Rugg covers her in bed. I can assure you, sir, that both I, along with the help of other virtuous and respectable persons of Dover and Rochester, have stopped Captain Mates from playing those towns, and that is why he decamps here. I have experience in the project I am proposing for Margate. I have real estate at Orr near Hastings, where I have a little theatre at the Hare and Hounds Inn, and I also have a new theatre in Folkestone, where I have spared no expense in transforming a large and airy barn into a theatre fit for the most polite audiences. Now, both those places, Hastings and Folkestone, are seaside places just like Margate, and I run my theatres peaceably and profitably. Where did I get the funds to buy the real estate? I had a lucky haul at Gosport, which is near, of course, Portsmouth. So we may thank our Johnny Jack Tars, our sailor boys, for the extensive campaign of theatre building that I am now embarking upon. Well, by your leave, one of those will be Margate. What do you mean, no? What do I want with Margate? Let me tell you, King Cobb, what it is that you like so much about Margate. It is by way of being something of a lawless place, is it not? For it comes under the legal jurisdiction of Dover, which is some 22 miles off. And as you are the only magistrate living in the town, you may truly have your will of this place and live above the law. And so, of course, are King Cobb. Oh, I see. Mates pays you £20 a year for the lease, do he? Oh, I suppose I should not be surprised that someone with such poor financial management as Captain Mates is able to find £20 a year for a place like Margate. A pinch of snuff, sir? Margate, being not overlooked by the eye of the law, must be a very handy place to find as it is on the coast. Little bays, inlets, nooks, where untaxed goods from France and the continent may perhaps wash up into some bay. Oh, yes, I have no idea that's one of the attractions for you carrying on your business here as well, sir. I do not. You will what? You will stop me from performing at any spot in town? Oh, sir, I will make use of Margate's place at the boundary of the law as well. We shall perform in spite of you, Justice Cobb. And I declare my right to murder Shakespeare equally with Captain Mates. Oh, and speak of the devil and he shall appear. Who comes into the fray now but Captain Mates himself? Oh, sir. What is it, Captain Mates, that you would have of me? Oh, you will rid Margate of Miss and her company? Oh, I think not, Captain Mates. I tell you this, Captain, every time you announce a play, Baker's Company shall perform the same play on the same night to more popular acclaim. That is how we got you out of Rochester and Dover, and by Jove, sir, that is how we shall get you out of this place too. And you wish to what? You wish to tell all that my product is inferior. Oh, sir, we shall win this battle of the sexes, and we shall do it, sir, using our weapon of choice, which is variety. When you play the bow stratagem, we shall play that comedy of Miss Hannah Cowley, the bell stratagem. Yes, when you do your tired comedic routine of the French macaroni, a bowing and scraping, Baker's Company will present equilibrial performances on the slack wire, where you serve only the meat of Shakespeare and Otway. Baker's Company shall sweeten the dish by giving the light trifles of interludes, pantomime, burletta, and curious bodily performances. You'll do what? You will approach Parliament for a charter for a royal theatre? A royal charter? Oh, I'd like to see you try. You'll need the help of all the parishioners that you can get. 907, you say? Already signed? Well, you'll still need 500 quid to get your bill through Parliament. Margate Theatre bill. Prince of Wales, you say? And the Archbishop of Canterbury? Well, we shall press on regardless. From August to November, I shall publish 19 fortnightly notices advertising a wide variety of entertainments. You shall post but 2. I'll tell you something else, sir. We shall make sure that everything we present is of the highest quality. I shall get in acts that you could only dream of. And I tell you something else, sir. You will find that our titles will perhaps send you a clear message. How about John O'Keefe's The Agreeable Surprise? What's this? An order to cease and desist from the Lord Chamberlain. Mr. Rugg, would you be so good as to cut my theatre into 4 equal parts? We will place it aboard of a hoy, and on that flat-bottomed boat we will go to our next engagement in Faversham. I am sure they need a new theatre.
Oh.
Here, Dibdin, write this down. My silver plate containing a great silver massy inkstand, 2 candlesticks, a superb set of silver trumpets, pair, and an array of tankards and vessels, the ones that I have along with my candlesticks beside me in every box office when we play. I am in there. Those are all to be divided equally betwixt mother. No, mother is long dead. What am I saying mother for? I'm curious that I'm thinking of that lady when I'm considering my own mortality. I meant to say, of course, Moll, my sister, who is still with us, thank God, and also my daughters, Sally and Anne, and of course Henry. Yes, may as well include him or he'll take offence. And Sally's 2 boys, though, nothing for Henry's boys, Sally's boys, William and Henry Doughton. Yes, they may have a share of the silver too. Let's not forget the company. Young actress Elizabeth Mary Goldstone. I bequeath £100, but she's not to have it until she's 21, for I do not wish her youth, nor her grasping family, to fritter it away. Then, there's, of course, let's not forget the other young lady. Yes, to Louisa Adelaide Cummings, And also to my executors, Mr. William Blytheman Blenkinsop, painter, scene painter, and of course captain of the Rochester Volunteer Militia, and also Mr. William Siddons, my other executor, builder. They may each have a mourning ring to the value of 10 guineas each. For my son Henry, I forgive and release my son Henry of a debt of £500. I mean, after all, I'm seeing to the provision for his 8 children, so it's not like he's ever going to pay it back. Now, trust funds. There is £12,000 to be divided equally between Moll, Anne, Henry, Sally, and the Doughton grandsons. Then I want a further £4,000 set aside just for the boys, William and Henry Doughton. But they are not to have that £4,000 until they achieve 5 and 30 years of age. Seems fair. The Rochester house. The whole of it can be sold by my executors in due course, but with the caveat that my sister Moll and my sisters and my sister Moll and my daughters Anne and Sally, they may all use the house along with any victuals, any liquor, anything that's been found in the grounds and the utensils for the duration of their lives, staying there rent free. And it's for their joint and several purposes, however they want to use it. Yes, put that in there. The theatres, sell them. Oh, all right then, all right. Put this. If William Doughton or Henry Doughton, my grandsons, wish to purchase any one or several of my theatres, and the machinery and the scenery and the properties, all the appurtenances thereunto, they may do so within 7 years of my decease, for a fair price, mind you. Do you think they'll be able to afford it? Or will they raid their trust funds to be able to do that? And if they do use up their funds, will they be able to make a going concern of them as a business? I worry. I mean, it takes a lot. It's taken many years for me to keep the justices of the peace in each place peaceful and accepting of us, and the corporations and the militia as well in each place. It's taken a lot. And I worry that they'll do things like, hire below par actors and put them on below par props and scenery. I mean, just imagine, right? My Rochester Star Hill Theatre being under Doughton management and seeing King Richard III asleep on a sofa that's too short for him, in an uncomfortable cloak. I mean, such things are noticed by observant young members of my audience. I mean, just imagine one such. Let's call him Charlie. As Shakespeare said, I've no idea what the Dickens' his name is. Let's call him Charles Dickens, young Charles Dickens, maybe in my theatre on Rochester's Star Hill, and he might make mockery if he's writing a review of what he sees under Doughton management. I can only hope that the stories we tell will give him inspiration for any writings he may be doing. He will recall the way his heart leapt in terror as King Richard backed into the stage box in which young Mr. Dickens was seated while the king was struggling for his life against the virtuous Richmond. Or maybe our characters may inspire him, like the countryman, but of noble principle, wearing a flowered waistcoat, who takes off his little hat and crunches it up, throws it on the floor, takes off his coat, and says, "Down thee, squire, come on with thy fists then." Perhaps that will inspire Mr. Dickens to similar bold delineations, if that's his name. I mean, I just worry that he will resort only to mockery when he realises that the witches bear a striking resemblance to some of the thanes and other proper persons inhabitant in Scotland, and that good King Duncan cannot rest easy in his grave, but is forever coming out of it and calling himself somebody else. I mean, you see, that's the problem. That's the risk I take. If they fall on hard times, they must reduce the people in the company, the number of them, and so those people must play several parts. But that is the risk I have taken. I have expanded our cultural fare, not only within the scope of the theatres and my brick-built chain of theatres, but so across the whole of the southeast of England, and producing bigger and bigger spectacles with larger and larger casts. I mean, of course, this is in reflection of changing public taste. They still like no comedy, but now